back to First Strike. I'm joined with the three apex predators of the Octagon out of the Sports Money Network here with MMA Jeff, Subhuman Gaucho, and Fanatical Jim. And we're fired up. We got UFC 309 back at the Garden, Madison Square Garden. We got John Jones. We got Miocic. It's going to be a great battle. And I'm excited to break down this 4 best bets. Early fights to get you guys cooking the books. And I got none other than the best to do it with me here. MMA Jeff, how we doing?
Fantastic. I'm optimistic about this card. It looks like it's going to be a good one. Always excited when they're at Madison Square Garden. This is going to be a very, very exciting card. I think we've got some special guests. I'm sure some famous people going to be out there. We're going back to the old gloves. So I am looking forward to it.
The old gloves should mean knockouts here, Sub Club. What do you think about that? You ready to see a bunch of violence?
Yeah, I do think this card has some finishes on it for sure. We got off the schneid last week as far as that big decision run that it seemed like the UFC was on. The favorite run continues. The chalk continues to cash, but I think with the new gloves back, we're in for a treat.
Well, I know Fanatical Jim loves the 12-6 elbow. I know he's excited about the new gloves, but let's hear it from his own mouth. Jim, are you excited about this event?
Oh, I love the 12-6 elbow, and I love this event. I think it's great. We have some retirees coming out this weekend between Mike Tyson and Stipe Miocic. I mean, they are really, really wheeling out these older fighters. But it should be exciting. Coming off a First Strike win last week with my girl Jillian, hoping to keep that streak continuing. And this is a great card, so looking forward to breaking it down with you guys.
Well, you guys know the deal. Saturday rolls around. We're going to start about a half an hour before they actually hit the first gloves. Of course, we'll cap the card and all things sports on Saturday, but we're here tonight to talk about these early fights, try to give you guys them best bet looks, and let's see if we can't beat some line movement. We're going to pop this thing right off. We're going to bring it on with Jeff, talking to little Jimmy Miller, little Jackson battle, Jeff. Looking forward to hearing how we're going to get to action on this first fight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. We got Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. You got Miller, who's a legend in the business. He's got 40 UFC fights, not just 40 career fights. He's got 40 specific UFC fights, showing Dana White what it's like to give contract extensions over and over and over. He's a well-skilled fighter, as we all know. He's pretty good at grappling. He's got some power in his punches. He's got boxing skill out there as well. He's coming into this one at 41 years old, though. That makes me a little nervous. He might be on the tail end here. He came in, what is he, 2-3 of his last 5 fights. He earned back-to-back wins and earned the fighting bonuses. And then he came out last fight against Bobby Green and looked, in my opinion, didn't look great at all. He ended up losing by unanimous decision. Maybe Father Time is catching up to him here at 41 years old. We'll see. But on the flip side, you got Jackson, who's also 36 or is 36. So he's no spring chicken himself, and he's got 30 pro fights under his belt. Jackson he seems like the superior grappler, and he also stepped up a weight class in this fight. So I think that's going to play a little bit to his advantage with not having to cut as much weight. I think he's going to be a little healthier in this one, or not healthier, but a little more full, I guess I should say. He's also got a couple inches of height advantage, so I think that's going to play into this one as well. He's 2-3 in his last 5, but you got to look at who he lost to. He lost to Ige. He lost to Billy Q. He came out, he beat Fluffy Hernandez, and then he lost to Marcel. All those guys are solid fighters, and I got to say, I think Jackson's going to end up taking this one. I see him coming out as the aggressor. He's going to be consistent on the takedowns. He's ultimately going to use his grappling, and with that weight advantage, I think he's going to probably be more beneficial for him to be on the mat. And Miller's a tough guy. I see Miller's, withstanding the beating and the grappling. I think Jackson's going to search for some submissions, but ultimately Miller's going to hang on like he typically does. So yeah, give me Jackson by decision at plus 150. I snagged that earlier yesterday at DraftKings. So get it early if you're going to get it, boys. And Sub's going to bring us into this Martinez McGhee fight. Sub, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. I got a few of my own. How are you getting paid?
All right. I'm really excited for this one from a fan's perspective here. Firstly, we've got Marcus McGhee here. Just 9-1, this guy, and he's 31 years old. So for his age, he's got a kind of a dearth of experience in some regard. And he's a somewhat newcomer to the UFC, just 3 UFC fights. However, he's looked absolutely spectacular in those 3 UFC fights. 3 wins, 3 bonuses. He's got a great base for MMA, skateboarding. He's a very, very good skateboarder. But, in all seriousness, this guy's got great hands, really good boxing. I like his combinations. Very good at going head, body, body, head. Very good at pressuring his opponents. And, for a guy with just 10 professional fights, really, really high fight IQ. I like what I see in the octagon from this guy. And he's got a ton of athleticism to go with it. Got his work cut out for him here. Jonathan Martinez, 19-5. He's 10-4 in the UFC. And before his recent loss to Jose Aldo, he's on quite a run. He's the younger fighter with the better experience, or more experience. Well, more and better experience, actually. I would say his level of competition is better as well. Real key for Jonathan Martinez is his leg kicks. I mean, this guy has some of the nastiest leg kicks in the division. Good jab. His hands are all right. I do think I give McGhee a bit of an advantage where the boxing is concerned. And, one of the things when I first started looking into this fight that I wanted to know was, how do these guys measure up when they're facing southpaws, because they're both southpaws. So we're going to see a close stance here. And, I think Jonathan Martinez has a little bit of trouble when he's facing a fellow southpaw. You look at 2 of his losses in the UFC, one to Sukumtau and one to Ewell. And in both times, he got hurt when they were fighting in close stances. One time orthodox, one time southpaw. And it seems like whenever you see him fight in a closed stance against a fellow southpaw, he throws an awful lot of leg kicks. So I think that gives McGhee a pretty distinct advantage here. I think McGhee can back him up. I think he can work the body, and eventually I think he is going to have the bigger moments. Much as the leg kicks of J Mart are always going to be a worry, I do like McGhee here as the skinny favorite. So give me that McGhee money line at minus 135. All right. All that said, I'm gonna pass it off here. This is a fight. This is my main event of the evening. We've got Chucky Olives versus Michael Chandler. Where are we going with this one, Mike?
Yeah, this is the rematch that we've been waiting for. It's been a minute. A couple of years back here, 2.5 years ago, these guys fight, and what happens? Chucky Olives, as Sub calls him, goes out there and gets the round 2 ground and pound. Which doesn't surprise me. We see Oliveira might be one of the best submission specialists in the UFC. And I think that round 2 ground and pound really spoke to the fact that Chandler's a risk taker, man. He's a wild man. He's out there trying to make some things happen, taking some chances. He gets to the ground, he loses position, and Chucky Olives takes care of him. Now, that being said, we look back at this thing here and listen, it's finish or bust for Oliveira. 3-2 is his decision record. He's 10-4 by knockout. And he's coming off of that Sarukian split decision loss. Flip side of things, we look at Michael Chandler, and this guy loves Madison Square Garden. He puts on a show. He feeds off the crowd, and I think it's going to be electric. Jeff talked about celebrities in the stands. And look, Chandler's one of those guys. You love to see him. He looks for kill shots. He puts himself in bad positions. It's risk and reward for this guy. And I think that speaks to this opportunity here. Charles Oliveira's getting older. On the flip side of things, we see a front kick opportunity by, Chandler over Tony Ferguson. I got to look at this thing and look at much of the similar of what we saw in the past. KO or bust. This thing's juiced to the under 1.5 rounds for a 5-round fight. Look at this, dog alert. It's the co-main event. You guys know the deal with the co-mains. The dogs have been cashing at over a 65% rate. The boys talked about it at the onset of the show here. They've gone back to the original UFC gloves. We're in the Garden. They're going to want to see violence. I think we do see a knockout opportunity. And look, don't be surprised if you look and find Iron Mike in a Iron Mike Tyson fight week here to find this victory. But I believe this fight ends by KO, risk or reward. I do think Chandler's a live dog. I do think they're going to go back to the KO that they found just 2.5 years ago. And I think we got some great money. Fight to end in a knockout. It's a 5-rounder, and we can catch it at plus 106 right now. Don't be surprised if Chandler lives on to this thing here, goes out, reclaims that victory that he lost that last time they fought each other, and a bounce back opportunity. But I like the fight to end in KO, and I got a plus 106. So I think that's a great price for us to get home. And speaking of getting home, bring us home, Fanatical Jim. He's going to talk to us about the Gall opportunity. Does Mickey Gall live on to fight another day? We'll have to hear from Fanatical Jim and see what he has to say.
Well, thanks, Mike. We certainly have a fight here between Mickey Gall and Ramiz Brahimaj. Let's be honest, this fight sucks. But just because it sucks doesn't mean we can't make money on it. Mickey Gall seemingly got a lifetime UFC contract by beating CM Punk. I think that's probably what he's most famous for. Really hasn't done much in the UFC. He actually is 6-6, so I was pretty surprised by that, since he's lost really the past 3, and I want to say 4 of the last 5. But he's hung in there with guys like Mike Perry, Alex Morono, Basil Hafez. He did get knocked out by Mike Malott, but Mike Malott was knocking a lot of guys out until he kind of abandoned that strategy recently. He's gotten some. I think most of his wins are by submission, maybe besides one. So he's not a bad fighter, but he is, he doesn't really have a lot of knockout power. His striking is questionable. He is pretty active, but again, it's not really hurting his opponents. On the other side, you have Ramiz Brahimaj. With Brahimaj, he was pretty promising up until he had spinal surgery in 22. And, it's unfortunate for him. It's obviously a lot to go through, and he had to get injections. He had to pretty much learn to do a lot of stuff again, according to some of his interviews I saw. And then he comes back in a couple of years, from 22 to May of 24 to fight Themba Gorimbo. And that was earlier this year. And man, he just does not look like the same guy. He's very, very slow. I think he threw 3 strikes, like literally 3 strikes in 3 rounds against Gorimbo. He didn't do anything. He was kind of just there for the ride. I guess kudos to him for surviving 3 rounds, but didn't really show much offensively. He had 8 takedown attempts, didn't go really anywhere. So it's hard to compare him to what we saw in 22 against Michael Gilmore, where he got a first-round sub, to what we're seeing now of just a completely different guy, very slow. Could he have gotten better, in 6 months, 5-6 months of training? Maybe a little bit better. But I just think in this situation, Mickey Gall will have more athleticism. It's going to have more striking power, striking equity, I would say. He's going to throw more volume. He'll be more active. Both of these guys' takedown defense is questionable. Both of their offensive takedowns or grappling, or whatever you want to call it, because it's pretty messy. Both sides. I mean, they're going to get takedowns on each other. I just think that Brahimaj is not going to do much with it. Mickey Gall will do a little bit more. And my official play here is Mickey Gall. I had to take a lot of shots to even consider this fight, but Mickey Gall, and over 1.5 rounds at plus 135. I do think Gall's the right side here. And I just think that in most cases, this goes to decision. The reason why I'm not taking the extra 70 cents or 65 cents is because I do think there could be a situation where Brahimaj just gets outworked in the 3rd round. And to the boys' earlier point, right? New gloves, some knockout equity here. Even though Mickey Gall has never done it before in the UFC, he could still do it here. I think he's given interviews where he said he's looking for a knockout. He's looking for ground and pound. You have now some legal ways to do it where you couldn't do it before in terms of on the ground with elbows and such things like that. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, my official play here is Mickey Gall over 1.5 at plus 135. You could find that on DraftKings as of now. I'm sure that'll open up in some other books later. So with that being said, Mike, let's circle back and go over the recap of today's fights.
Great work, gentlemen. We are underway, UFC 309. Just a couple days in front of us here, but it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a lot of fireworks. There's obviously a lot of great things that happen at Madison Square Garden. It's a great fight capital. It's going to be a lot of fun to break these cards down with you guys in detail as we get ready on Saturday. But you guys can see the deal. Jackson by decision. Jeff leads us off at a plus 150. McGhee minus 135 for our man, Subhuman Gaucho. I'm taking the Chandler fight to end by knockout at plus 106, and Fanatical Jim brings us home with Mickey Gall. He's going to win. It's going to go over 1.5 rounds, and it's a nice plus 135 price tag. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you follow Sports Money and join us on Saturday. We have been crushing these cards, and you got to find out for yourself. Seeing is believing. We'll see you guys here Saturday afternoon, 30 minutes before they touch gloves for the first fight. That's going to be Sports Money's UFC dynamic team coming out there to crush the books. We'll see you guys real soon. Thank you.